Hello, everyone. This is Eleanor Rigby. I was sitting here in my sunroom this morning looking at a small framed photograph that sits on my side table. It's not a professional portrait, it's grainy, a bit faded at the edges, and the colors have that distinct yellowish tint of the late 1960s. In the photo, my husband, Arthur, and I are just walking down a sidewalk in downtown Chicago. We weren't doing anything special. We weren't dressed up for a gala, but our fingers are laced together so tightly you can tell where his hand ends and mine begins. Looking at that photo made me realize something that I think we've forgotten in this fast-paced world. If I hadn't learned the lesson in that photograph 40 years ago, I truly believe I would have lost everything that matters. Before I tell you this story, please subscribe. I want to pass this wisdom down before I'm gone so you don't make the same mistakes I see so many people making today. You see, back in the mid-70s, Arthur and I went through what I call our season of shadows. We had been married for about 12 years. The initial magic had worn thin, replaced by the heavy, gray weight of responsibility. We had 2 young children, a mortgage that felt like a noose, and Arthur was working 12-hour shifts at the plant while I was pulling double duty as a secretary and a mother. We were successful by the standards of our neighbors. We had a nice station wagon and we could afford the big Christmas gifts, but inside that house, we were like two ghosts bumping into each other in the hallway. We stopped talking about our dreams and started talking only about the bills, the plumbing, and the PTA meetings. I remember one specific anniversary. I think it was 1976. Arthur came home and handed me a velvet box. Inside was a gold tennis bracelet. It must have cost him 3 weeks of overtime. He looked at me, waiting for that spark, that leap of joy, and I felt nothing. I thanked him, I kissed his cheek, and I put the bracelet in my jewelry box, where it sat for years. I didn't want gold, I wanted him, but I didn't know how to say that. We had reached a point where we were trying to buy our way out of loneliness. If we had a bad argument, he'd bring home flowers or a new kitchen gadget. If I felt distant, I'd cook an elaborate, expensive meal. We were using things to fill the holes where our hearts used to be. Young people today might not understand this, but you can be surrounded by luxury and still be starving for a touch that means something. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in November. It was freezing. The wind was howling off the lake and the heater in our old house had given up the ghost. I was exhausted, crying over a broken washing machine. And when Arthur walked through the door, I snapped. I told him I couldn't do it anymore. I told him that all the gifts and the jewelry and the stuff didn't make up for the fact that I felt like a stranger in my own marriage. I told him I felt invisible. He didn't yell back. He just sat down at the kitchen table, still wearing his heavy work coat, and he looked at his hands. They were calloused, stained with grease that never quite came off, and shaking slightly from the cold. He said, "Eleanor, I'm working myself into the ground to give you the world. What else is there?" I walked over to him, and I didn't say a word. I just took his hand. I sat down next to him, and I held that rough, tired hand between both of mine, and we sat there in that cold kitchen for 30 minutes, just holding on. No jewelry, no fancy dinner, no grand gestures, just skin against skin. In all my 80 years, I have never felt a more profound shift in my soul than I did in those 30 minutes of silence. I can still hear his voice cracking when he finally spoke. He said, "I forgot how much I needed you to just hold me." Let me tell you the truth, it wasn't easy after that. In fact, it was the hardest year of my life trying to dismantle the walls we had built. But we made a pact that day. We called it the 5-minute rule. No matter how busy we were, no matter how much we were struggling financially, We would spend 5 minutes every morning and every evening just holding hands. No talking about the kids, no talking about money, just connection. Experience has taught me that the human touch is a language that bypasses the brain and goes straight to the spirit. When you hold someone's hand, you are saying, I am here. I am not leaving. You are safe. An expensive watch or a designer handbag can't say that. A diamond ring is a beautiful symbol, but it's cold. It doesn't have a pulse. It doesn't squeeze back when you're scared. I remember during the recession in the early 80s, we lost a lot. We had to sell the nice car, and there were many nights when dinner was just beans and toast. I saw other couples in our circle fall apart during that time. They fought over the loss of their status, their toys, their lifestyle. But Arthur and I, we were okay because when the lights were turned off because we couldn't pay the utility bill, we were sitting on the sofa in the dark, holding hands. We were anchored. Think about that. Truly think about it. In today's world, I see everyone looking at their screens. I see couples at restaurants sitting across from each other, both staring at their phones, their hands busy scrolling through the lives of strangers, while the person they promised to love sits 3 feet away. Ignored. It breaks my heart. You are trading a soul deep connection for a flicker of blue light. You have to understand that your partner doesn't need your money as much as they need your presence. Love isn't a feeling you have. It's a decision you make every morning. And sometimes that decision is as simple as reaching across the center console of the car and finding their fingers. Is about being present in the small, mundane moments of life. My late husband used to say that the strongest bridge in the world was the one formed by two people refusing to let go of each other's hands. When Arthur was in the hospital at the end 10 years ago now, he couldn't speak much. He couldn't wear his wedding ring anymore because his fingers had swollen. All the things we had accumulated over 50 years of marriage, the house, the furniture, the mementos, none of it mattered. It was all just clutter. The only thing that mattered in those final hours was that I was sitting by his bed, holding his hand. I held it until the very end. I promise you, when you get to the end of your road, you won't be thinking about the Christmas of '88 when you got that expensive coat. You'll be thinking about the way your partner's hand felt in yours during the storms. So, if you're listening to this, I want you to do something. When your partner comes home today, don't just say hi from the other room. Walk over to them, take their hand, look them in the eyes for a few seconds. It might feel awkward at first if you haven't done it in a while, but do it anyway. Patience, sacrifice, and loyalty aren't just big words for greeting cards. They are practiced in the palms of your hands. Don't wait for a crisis to realize that the greatest gift you can ever give is your undivided attention and your physical presence. Cherish the person standing next to you, not for what they can buy you or what they can provide, but for the simple, miraculous fact that they are walking this long, difficult road of life with you. A marriage is built on 1,000 tiny touches, not 10 big checks. Remember that if you keep your hearts and your hands open to each other, there isn't a storm in this world that can knock you over. Thanks for listening to An Old Soul. Subscribe, share this with someone you love, and cherish them while they are here. Life is shorter than you think, but love, true, connected love, is the only thing that lasts. Would you like me to write a similar script focusing on a different life lesson, such as the importance of forgiveness or lessons learned from a first job?